Welcome to Communication Excellence. When you mention nonverbal communication, most people instantly think about eye contact and facial features like smiling. The truth is, there are more nonverbal communication behaviors in your eyes and mouth. In fact, they may be working simultaneously with your facial features to improve your interpersonal communication with others, or not. When your nonverbal signals are aligned with the words you use, you seem congruent and your message is usually clear and understood. However, if your nonverbal signals are at odds with your words you're saying, then the message can be confusing and misunderstood. Many people are not aware of this nonverbal behavior interaction and the power of nonverbal communication has when it comes to others understanding what you're trying to tell them. We often find politicians saying one thing and doing something else. That something else behavior is nonverbal signal that is incongruent with the words the politician is speaking. The politician may be attractive, well-dressed, and have a charismatic communication style. And people hear what the politician's saying, but shake their head when they're confused because the politician's nonverbal behavior doesn't seem to align with what they're saying. When it comes to selecting the right person to represent you in your government, being able to read nonverbal cues while watching or interacting with the politician in person will literally be your strongest and best weapon in judging the politician's intentions to provide you what you say you need from someone who represents you and wants your votes only. How can you tell? How do you know you can trust it? For the next few days, I'm going to educate you about nonverbal communication so you can use these tools to make better judgments about who you will vote for during elections. Now, a couple of things you should know before we get started. First, nonverbal communication is one component of a closed system called communication, and we're going to provide you that system and let you have a look at it. Secondly, it requires you understanding some aspect of emotional intelligence like self-awareness. And that's the interpersonal part of interpersonal communication. Thirdly, nonverbal assessment requires you to become an intentional active listener. We're going to talk a lot about what active listening means, and it's a lot more than just reciting back what somebody says to you. Now, I'm introducing you to these concepts as part of understanding how to use interpersonal communication. You are just going to touch on these topics. You can find a lot more about them in reading my e-textbooks that I wrote for my 17-week communication leadership course. However, everything that is instructed is very useful in any organizational environment, like your immediate family is an organization, your spouse and children, and then maybe your extended family out to your in-laws, your friends, your neighbors, your work associates, church members. You kind of get the idea. This information is going to help you a lot in helping to connect with other people. I want to introduce you to the key nonverbal communication categories, starting with some you most likely would not have guessed to be nonverbal behavior. In this session, I want to cover chronemics. Simply put, that means your timing while interacting with others. Suppose at 3 p.m. in the afternoon you scheduled a difficult performance discussion with an employee who's struggling with their job. But at 2:55 p.m., you just hung up with your spouse after an unresolved heated argument. Would you want to keep that 3 p.m. meeting to have that difficult discussion in your current state of mind? Is the timing right? Perhaps you might hear something the wrong way because you're not 100% focused on what that employee is saying and the fact that the employee is crying. A quick self-awareness assessment might cause you to delay the conversation. You could maybe tell the employee to join you in the office and then explain the discussion involves some areas the employee must improve. And you want to provide the employee your full attention, your total amount of attention, so you can help them improve. But you just got off of a difficult, disturbing phone call, and you're afraid you might not give the employee the attention they deserve as their leader. So you ask the employee, what is the next convenient time you have to meet the next day or two? Considering timing is a nonverbal communication. Over the course of my 50 years as a leader and leadership consultant, I've assessed tens of thousands of employees and asked the majority of them the same question. What one thing would you like to see your leader do better? And I can tell you over 80% of those employees said they would like their leader to communicate better. Now, two interesting points for you to consider. First, nearly all leaders, I would say in the low 90% level, leaders rated themselves better communicators than their employees rated them on communication. In addition, the vast majority of employees said that it's the one thing they wanted their leader to do better was communication. When I asked them for an example of communication, many of them said they hardly ever see their leader in person. The direction comes from text messages, email, or group chat. Another interesting point I found with these leaders whose employees seldomly saw their leader, the leader's boss and peers rated their leader's communication score higher than the employees rated the leader, but still less than the leader rated themselves. So when the leader and the leader's boss, peers, and employees had a team building session where they all got to look at a single bar chart representing this pattern of communication without any accompanying analysis from me, the consultant. When asked what they saw in the data, it became clear to all of them, including the leader, that the leader spent more time with his boss and the peers than with his employees. That is a nonverbal timing chronemics issue. The leader simply had not thought about the amount of time he spent with his employees. From that discussion, many factors arose about how he viewed his employees, how they could impact his career versus the boss and peers' impact on the leader's career. Now we had something the leader discovered about himself that allowed us to improve his communication with his employees. The leader spending more in-person time with the employees is one simple improvement step the leader could do to improve his connection with his employees. Now, not to mention, it opened the boss's eyes about interpersonal communication, and the same was true for the leader's peers. They all became a little more interested. Frequency of interaction, how much time you spend with an employee, whether it's the right time, and do you consider the employee when setting things like meeting times? These are all nonverbal signals that are telling the employee how much you value them. I want to encourage you to visit www.victorlvogel.com. Find the e-textbook called Understanding the Language of Body. Purchase the book. Read it through without studying it and leave it alone for a week. Just set it down and walk away. Then come back and read it again, chapter by chapter, and spend time thinking about yourself and others who represent examples you can relate to based on what you've read. Then spend some serious time, a week or so, working on the workbook exercise examples. The book comes with a workbook. The next nonverbal behavior I will discuss is going to be haptics. You can read about haptics in that book also. I recommend it. You're going to have to stay tuned or subscribe, even better, and to know when the next discussion is going to be available. You can schedule free chats with me individually as a group on that link I provided. There's an opportunity to schedule a meeting with me. They're free. You can also test drive my leadership communication course. There's a free module in there you can try also. Now, I want to thank you for watching. Ciao until the next time. If you think this is helpful, restack it with a comment, recommend it, share it, and provide your comments. The more people selecting politicians we interact with, the more they will vote for the right person in an office because they know how. Thanks for watching. Till next time.
Coaches, do you want to fast-track your clients' growth for no cost and no effort? Introduce them to the RCLLO Interpersonal Communication Leadership course. It's a comprehensive 17-week course designed for busy leaders and small business owners. It is fully remote and completely self-directed. RCLLO is equipped with comprehensive e-textbooks and a powerful 360-degree communication assessment. That creates a baseline for improving your client's communication. Expand your coaching toolkit today for no cost and no effort. In fact, there is a generous referral fee. Find out more and schedule a video conference at www.victorlvogel.com.